People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Do you recall when Sheryl Swoopes spoke out, claiming that no one wanted to join the Indiana Fever and that free agents would steer clear of the team due to locker room problems and an alleged toxic culture? Well, that statement has now been added to the list of the most misguided takes in WNBA history.
Things you said.
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay.
But I'm talking about more social media.
Okay. It's a turn. Right? It's a turn, right? It's really a turn of the tides.
Well,
right?
Gil, here's my point. The beginning of the year, right? Everybody.
Now, Indiana has just dominated free agency, and the person calling out that earlier claim isn't just some random fan on Twitter. It's Sue Bird. But before we dive into Sue's basketball insights, let's revisit Sheryl Swoopes' original statement and give it the proper roasting it deserves. This wasn't a casual remark. This was a Hall of Famer, someone with a lasting legacy, using her platform to essentially tell the basketball world that Indiana was a career killer. She argued that the locker room was a mess, that top talent would never choose the Fever, and that the franchise wasn't equipped to support a generational star.
That takes us to Indiana, which I think everyone agrees right now has gone from, a team that made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. They were building all these young pieces, of course, Caitlin Clark, to now an immediate contender with all the moves that they've made.
So, what's really going on as free agency plays out? Players are eager to join the Caitlin Clark show, and that's exactly what Sue Bird, the living basketball history book, is noticing. And when Sue speaks, people pay attention.
Natasha Howard certainly stands out. I loved playing with Tosh.
But you cannot say enough about
Tosh. I really enjoyed playing with her. I think she really is she's just this glue player that doesn't get enough shine for what she does, because a lot of what she does doesn't show up in the box score, but she just is like always in the right place at the right time. And a player like that, I think complements what Indiana is building.
Sue doesn't toss out compliments casually. She's not after attention. She's a 4-time WNBA champion, a 5-time Olympic gold medalist, and the point guard behind one of the most dominant stretches in WNBA history with the Seattle Storm.
Sue Bird is one of the greatest point guards of all time in the WNBA. And she's someone who obviously is a part owner in the Seattle Storm. So hyping up another team is a bit of a conflict of interest, if we're being.
So, what was her first response? She brought her trademark veteran wisdom, advising everyone to slow down on the Indiana Fever's supposed title run. That's classic Sue, calm and measured, reminding everyone that championships aren't earned on Twitter or in group chats celebrating Clark's logo 3S.
Through trade, added Sophie Cunningham, a player that, I would say a 3-and-D type player who has, been to the finals, so has that playoff experience. She's also just tough. She's mentally tough. She's physically tough. She brings an edge to them. And then last but not least, they added DeWanna Bonner, which really I think is the one that for most people took it to another level. So now you're like, oh, they're a contender.
But here's what the casual fans missed. Sue wasn't dismissing the Fever. She was actually sending a message to the entire league. If you read between the lines, the real takeaway is clear. Indiana is building something special, and it's coming together quickly. This isn't just the Caitlin Clark show, though she's the box office star, draining logo threes, racking up assists like it's nothing, and leaving defenders in the dust. No, Sue sees the bigger picture. She recognizes the foundation being laid.
The biggest part of DB joining this team is that she's already played for Steph. So I think that's going to help bridge the gap, because as we go along, we're going to talk about Vegas and Seattle, Atlanta. It's really going to be which
Stephanie
team.
White being the head coach.
Thank you.
Was the head coach of Connecticut, now the head coach of Indiana.
Yeah. So it's really going to be the team that finds their chemistry. This season is short. I mean, they're adding games, but it's still pretty short season.
Still short.
And it's going to be the team that finds chemistry. So having Stephanie White there, having already coached DB, really does help.
Aliyah Boston, the powerhouse center, is poised to dominate the paint for the next decade. Kelsey Mitchell, an elite scorer who's weathered the tough times, is now thriving in the good ones. Lexa Hull is the gritty, hustle player every championship caliber team needs, and now free agents are eager to join in. That's the part Swoopes never saw coming. Caitlin Clark flipped the script, changing everything.
See Mitchell's ball and Caitlin continuing to impress and she's going to break records nonstop for the next couple of years.
This isn't the same Indiana Fever team that spent years as an afterthought in the league. Now, they're the hottest ticket in town. Ticket sales are soaring. Record-breaking jerseys are flying off the shelves faster than free throws. Broadcast deals? Networks are fighting for Fever slots like it's the NBA Finals. Free agents are noticing. Veterans chasing rings are suddenly interested in Indiana because playing alongside Clark means primetime TV, deep playoff runs, and building a legacy. Sue Bird sees it. She's been that player before, attracting talent to Seattle during her prime, and she recognizes the Fever are starting to build that same magnetic pull. This is how dynasties are born. A superstar, a young core, and veterans who see the vision. So, while Sue Bird is out here analyzing Indiana's rise, Sheryl Swoopes is watching her credibility slip away. This is no longer the old Indiana Fever. This is the team of the future, and the rest of the league better wake up quickly.
Something about the way she plays the game, her passing, her shooting, that people really identify with. I really feel like we're poised and we're set up for a great, successful next era of Fever basketball.
When Sue Bird shares her insight about a team, it's wise to pay attention because she's not a retired legend seeking attention with bold statements. Her words carry weight, and her message about the Indiana Fever is unmistakable. This team isn't just approaching, it already made their mark.
WNBA MVPs in your career, would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
I can't. Bro, Sheryl Swoopes is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant.
Here's where Sheryl Swoopes and her outdated take on locker room dynamics completely missed the mark. The Fever didn't just stumble upon success because Caitlin Clark arrived. While she undoubtedly sparked the momentum, this team has been constructed gradually, piece by piece, move by move. The Fever have endured years of adversity, facing empty arenas and double-digit losing streaks, all while Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and the rest of the core kept pushing forward. Clark wasn't the initial plan. She's the critical and most significant addition. That's what Sue Bird recognizes, the blueprint. The Fever front office didn't just bring in players for the sake of attention. They built a purposeful basketball team. They've crafted a system where Clark can thrive without the pressure of scoring 30 points every game just to keep the team competitive. This isn't a team desperately relying on one player to save them. This is a well-oiled machine designed to win, centered around that one extraordinary talent.
About the experience, the champions that have been added to this one.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what everybody talked about when we were in the playoffs last year of, we really didn't have much experience at all playing in playoff games. I don't know what the exact number was, but we really lacked in that area. So just adding pieces of, players that have been in this league, they know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to get to the finals. They know what it takes to win championships. I think it's exactly what we needed in our locker room. So it's just exciting, but also they're not only really good basketball players, they're really great leaders and really great people. And I know the front office obviously really prioritized that and looking for the pieces that we wanted to add. So
Sydney Colson is joining the Indiana Fever. What does that mean? Indiana is just being so greedy right now. They took DB, they took Natasha. Now they got Sydney Colson. Why would they take Sydney?
Caitlin Clark is at that ascension point where she's going to be top of the MVP race. We're going to talk about her in terms of stat leaders later, but the way that the Indiana Fever just made a statement around Caitlin Clark and said hey, we're pushing in the chips. We're ready to win now. And Duana Bonner's obviously, the face of the new pieces that have come in. So obviously that's going to be the biggest needle mover in what Drew said. The market has obviously reflected.
We're so bright. And our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in 20.
I think the biggest needle-moving free agent signing, which was also one of the more surprising moves for me, Duana Bonner to the Fever. That was one of the first dominoes that fell, in this